The red button is pushed.
Oh God!
The red button is pushed. That means we are recording. Wait, hold on. Let me see if I set my shit up right. Jesus Christ.
Professional. That's what we are. Professional podcasters.
Fuck, no.
We don't make anything on this, and you can tell.
There we go. Okay, now my microphone is set to the proper settings. Son of a bitch. All right. Stupid.
Do we need to restart, or will you just edit this part out?
No, we keeping everything, man. Shit.
Oh, okay. All right. I forgot spam of live. The spam of podcast. Nothing gets missed.
We're doing it live.
The floor is up.
This is how you create authenticity that your audience will buy into by keeping it all there.
We're hardcore.
All right. Well, usually we start off just by asking each other what we are geeking on, but today we have a special guest. Grig, please tell the audience who you is.
Oh, crap. I didn't prepare. No. My name is Grig Larson, a.k.a. Punky, depending on where you know me from. I am a science fiction author, a podcaster. I write pretty much the entirety of This Kaiju Life, which is read by my friend and fellow podcaster, Nobilis Reed. I've been in science fiction, anime, comic fandom since the 1980s. I do a lot of fandom history, panels. I'll talk about anything. And I have known Super Art Fight, like, since they were way before Super Art Fight. And they were at my convention, which I used to be president of, Katsucon. It started, I believe, with Iron Artist.
Yep.
And then it graduated from there. And I've been following you guys' careers for years. And I am great fans of you guys and of Super Art Fight and just all the weirdness that we're all surrounded by. And, of course, I'm probably your #1 commenter on your podcast.
Yeah, some of them you're the only commenter on the podcast.
One and only.
I figured, I learned at retail, if you want people to come into your store or your booth, you have people in front of your store or your booth, and then people think, hey, something's going on. So I'll see all this commenting, and then suddenly there'll be just tons of people saying, like, I like Brandon, in his older days.
Yeah.
No junk, no soul.
Yes. That's absolutely true.
I like the classic Brandon.
Yeah. I did get a comment that apparently our RSS feed is broken on Libsyn, but I got it as a YouTube comment, so it's like, but you're watching it on YouTube. I don't get it.
My guess is that he didn't know where to comment in another place, but wants to just download the audio format.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
See, I don't know. The video kind of makes it for this podcast. I like, especially when Brandon goes into some sort of rant mode. It's like, and this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm getting off of Twitter, and Instagram can suck it.
Yep. Yeah, I am a very animated man baby. That is an accurate description.
All right. Well, now that we know who you are, Grig, what have you been geeking on this week?
This week, actually, I did prepare for this. For the last few months, when I've had time to do stuff, because my life has been very busy. But I've been geeking on Raspberry Pis. Now, do you guys?
Yeah,
it's
the little computer.
Yeah, it's basically a little computer. I have one here.
How many do you have?
I actually have 4 now. This is all a computer. This tiny little thing, half the size of a credit card. Remember those Moo cards when they came out?
Yeah.
It's about that size.
Oh, that's awesome.
And this is a complete computer. You can log into it, SSH into it. I've been doing a lot of weird stuff with it. I've been making what's known as a pi hole, which out of context. No, really. It's like pi-hole.net. You can turn your Raspberry Pi into a DNS blocking engine. You put it in your network.
Oh,
you
cool.
set it up, and it blacklists all the junk URLs, all the ads, all the like, you know, things that are known hacker URLs. And suddenly I've noticed this mostly on mobile browsing, that it makes my mobile browsing so much faster. Because like sometimes occasionally, like in Windows, like a pop-up will come up, but it won't have anything to display because it's blocked like the image and whatnot. And I've been doing like other stuff with it. I've been creating a VPN. I've been using this programming series of script called Ansible, which is basically like I learned this from the business end of things. It's where you don't look at cloud-based computers anymore as like individual like things that you put together and they're done a special way just so. You actually develop scripts that build them and tear them down just as quickly.
Wow.
So instead of like, you know, having a desktop where you have all your junk and you have to set up, and you will do it once, you will script everything that you've done, and then you can tear it down and rebuild it almost instantly. So I've been doing this with the Raspberry Pis, like creating appliances and breaking them down and stuff like that, because outside of all the sci-fi geekdom stuff, I'm a geek in business, and I work with this on a daily basis. And and so one of the things that I found out in previous jobs is I have a lot of jobs that you can't really talk about in public. So because of like clearances, NDAs, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So what I started doing is I started telling people I work for Kaiju Research Labs, which is I realized when Pacific Rim came out that when they would show like, you know, these scaffolds, you know, in the distance with all these robots and some welder, you know, working on something, that guy, that welder has to have a life. He has a 9-to-5 job. He goes in there, he's making this big Jaeger suit. What does he do afterwards, you know? Or what kind of bullshit bureaucratic nonsense do they have to put up with? Yeah. It's sort of, well, we don't have enough budget for acetylene, so we're going to go on an acetylene reduction program. So you will do more welding with less fuel because we just don't have the money. And the person who uses the least amount of fuel wins Employee of the Month. You know, all the stupid crap that happens in normal jobs happening in the Pacific Rim. Yeah. So I started building this as like kaiju menace, like Godzilla, Mothra, Gamera. All of these monsters are real. They're all roaming all over the planet. There's a gigantic UN-like thing. And I got this idea also from Johnny Sacco, which is a terrible TV series.
Oh, yeah. Giant. It was Giant Robo in Japan.
Yes, it was. And it's Johnny Sacco's flying robot, which is run by like Unicorn, which is the United Nations Acorn.
Acorn.
I don't know what it is, but I look at like the sets that they have, and you notice like, you know, they have this guy in an interrogation room in a jail, and all that's there is like a table and a telephone with one button. Where's the telephone going to? Who installs that phone? Can you imagine? It's like, yes, I would like to buy phones, but they must be pink, and they must only have one button. And so
that's the only part so far that has made sense to me, because all I'm hearing, one is acetylene welder guy bitching to other acetylene welder guy going, man, fuck Jerry, I hope a kaiju busts his ass. Just kicks on through here, fucks this place up, because I'll burn this place to the ground. They may as well call me Ghidra, because I'm going to burn a motherfucker down. That's right.
I will steal that and then probably use it in a future episode.
Damn, Jerry.
Feel free. Yeah.
So I started telling people anytime I would rant about work, I would make it about like I was working in this kaiju place. Yeah. And then I'd rant about the developers. That way, if somebody breaks into my private Facebook and they're like, aha, he's really talking about where he... And I used to work for weird companies like National Democratic Institute, which I can talk about now because Trump cut all the foreign funding. And we were this company that would we were the butter and jam that would be smeared democracy on the world muffin, so to speak.
Yeah. Gotcha. forcing other people to learn civics when we don't have to.
Yes, we also try to keep voting fair.
That's how we win, Brandon.
I know, that's right.
Wait, hang on. Did you just say keep voting fair?
Yeah.
So we're getting involved in other people's voting, you say?
Yes. Well, so this nonprofit group, which is all funded by like senators and things
Jesus.
like that.
Oh my God. Nonprofit.
But if you want to talk about weird, like there was just so much stuff that I had from there. So
not at all a covert propaganda arm of any one agency.
Not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
So how was your tenure at Hypocrite Tech?
Well, I spent a year and 1 month there, and as their senior Linux admin, seeing the most insane shit imaginable, and then they started having layoffs because Trump cut all the foreign funding, and so we were one of the first to go. Ugh. So I ended up working for another company, but I just continue on that thing. So when I rant about a coworker, I don't have to worry about it. It gets leaked out. It's like I have plausible deniability.
Well, yeah, because you could be writing about your podcast because it's all about like the kaiju thing and all that kind of stuff.
And none of my jobs had clearance. I want to make that perfectly clear. Nice. I do not has SF-86 clearance at all because I found out that if I get it, and I could get more money in my industry if I do.
Oh yeah,
I have to submit everything I ever write through them to be cleared, including my fiction, podcasts, any porn that I might, write. It could happen, and and anything like that. I write a grocery list. It's got to be, stamped, parts cut out. I don't know, but so I was like, nah, I'm not going to get clearance. But I have been cleared by Interpol, so licensed and bonded and insured and all that.
I had a clearance once.
Yeah.
It was terrible. It was the worst experience of my life. It was awful. I hated every minute of it. But I got a clearance once.
Oh, yeah.
0 out of 10. Do not recommend.
Yeah. And, you'd be so surprised who has clearance. Like, janitors have clearance just so they can throw out trash of the desk of the girl who works at the NSA who is responsible for making the coffee. Like, it's just... It's weird, how the clearance process is done. So that's added into the podcast as well. Because there's a kaiju clearance in the podcast, and he's constantly threatened to lose his job if he loses his kaiju clearance, which he accidentally got by filling out the wrong form.
Do listeners have to go through the clearance process to listen to the podcast?
No, because I didn't get clearance, so I can say whatever I want. So, because it's what they call in the industry golden handcuffs, because you get more money, but suddenly your life is restricted in really weird ways. Like anytime you get a girlfriend, she might get interviewed. Things like that. Yeah. It depends on what level. Most people wouldn't get that, but I had a friend who worked for a 3-letter agency, and he was getting married, and his wife was scrutinized. The family was interviewed.
Oh yeah.
And he did not have a director's position or anything high up the chain. But the position that he had could conceivably have access to certain information. So everyone had to be cleared. So
that's tough.
Luckily they approved and he got married and everything. So.
All right. Well, Brandon Chalmers, what have you been geeking on this week?
I have been geeking on the goddamn gigantic project I decided to take on that no one asked for, but I did anyway. So Super Art Fight has had an archive of photos, and I have taken on the daunting task of trying to organize it up. I know. To try and, put more stuff out there for social media and try and just organize all of the massive years of everything. And
Johnny's photos are the best.
Johnny's photos are the best. There is seriously one where we were in Los Angeles, and it looked like Marty was in the middle of a Michael Bay film because, slow walking away, just sauntering, and the crowd fucking exploding behind him.
Johnny's photos were the best.
Yeah, so anyway, I mourn the loss of cool Art Fight photos because I really just want to pay for a serious photographer, and I know that we don't have that kind of scratch.
I'm working up.
I know. I'm doing the same thing. I'm slowly.
I'm working on it.
Doing my best, homie. Doing my best.
I'm expensing this 500-foot lens to Super Art Fight. No, wait. As if we had money.
nonsense, man. I can't even itemize anymore. It's ridiculous.
I'm working on it, Brandon. I'm getting there.
Greg, honestly, there has genuinely been a thought process in my head where I'm like, I don't need a $1,200 lens, but if I want to shoot sports, and we're as close to sports as nerds get, then I kind of need the lens.
You can rent. What I think I'm gonna do I was gonna rent a lens, like a 70 to 200 fast firing on a thing. Try it out at a show once and see how that turns out, because like I've gone down this rabbit hole, and it's a bad rabbit hole to get to. But.
Yeah, I know. Like I've got the dumbest problem of the old lenses that I have that work with the adapter aren't fast enough to catch up to my newfangled camera. Yeah. So focusing, because it won't let me manually focus completely, takes forever. And therefore, I have this huge issue where, like, I need to go buy the cool lens. And basically, the entry point to something that is good enough to do action shots is, like, minimum 700. One that they really recommend is, like, 1150. And I'm like, why is this so expensive?
Working on it, Brandon. We're getting there. We're going to get there.
Damn it.
I'm going to start shooting horny food and then work up to sports.
Oh, God. Yeah, like, I don't understand. I think that's the secret of getting older. Finding out that everything you're into is fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything.
But you don't have children. I thought you were rich because you didn't have children.
No, I'm able to buy dumb shit like this without really thinking about it because I don't have children. Believe me. Like, but also understand, I'm a warehouse manager. I'm not making kaiju money. So I may not have children, but I'm also still touching cardboard all day. I'm like a step above hobo. Like, my bindle's a little pricey, but like, please believe I play with cardboard all day. So it is not a glamorous life.
I've seen Kelsey's photos.
Yeah. But you are true. It's the not having children is the only way that I could afford to be such a man baby. Yeah.
I had to get that when my child grew up.
Yeah, like I'd have to be responsible and then, buy things for other people. And dude, fuck that. That sounds terrible. I'd like.
And then they resent you for a long time.
Yeah. I'm good. Like, I grew up with terrible parents. I'm all right. I don't need to do that to anybody else.
Well, besides the Johnny shots, are there any standout photos that that spring to mind that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe we got these?
Yeah, the old, of course, another professional photographer, Matt Roth, a friend of Super Art Fight. He's done a ton of stuff for a lot of different newspapers. There were a bunch of portrait shots that happened at the Auto Bar way back when, and it got me yearning for the days when we used to do portrait shoots at other parts of the venue, where like, we throw a banner up, we throw like one light that only like half cast light across everything, so you got this really hard shadow, and then we just hung out and got goofy with each other and snapped photos, rather than going in the same area and worrying about like, well, what if we want to edit these pictures down to put into social media for other things? It's like, no, I don't want a green screen. I want to get you in your natural habitat. Learning that Jamie Gucci, when he is around other people playing around, is probably some of the best.
And here we find a Jamie Gucci in his habitat.
Yes.
He's like the lyrebird.
Honestly, there was a series of photos where like we were all doing things in the second floor. If anyone's ever been to the Auto Bar backstage, there's like a two-tier green room. Yeah. The green room downstairs has a couch in it, and the second we all got the prop of the couch, things got completely out of hand. Like I see like the Charm City Shinobi like perched on top of it like Spider-Man. There's one where like all you see is just like the top of his head peeking out. Jamie's throwing cushions at people. Jamie Baldwin built a cushion fort and was like hunkered down in the thing. Like, I'm convinced y'all need props.
It's true. I used to be the head writer of a comedy group called the Prune Brand Players from 89 to 93. This is a long time ago. But we had one shoot like that, and we had a blow-up doll of a certain nature. I don't know why. I'm used to podcasts where I have to censor myself. We had a blow-up fuck doll that somebody had gotten, complete with the surprised expression like,
by the way, Grig, I can do the blow up doll math. If you were like, we had an inflatable sheep, I'd be like, oh, that's a fuck doll. Like, I know you don't have to worry about like we have an intelligent
no
audience.
Judgments here. No judgments
like,
here.
Oh, okay.
You can do this math. You're good.
Right. So we were doing like somebody did like the scene shots from the Beach Boys album covers, and so they had one where they were holding the blow up doll like a surfboard, and then there was like 4 of them lined up, and then there was stuff from like the Pet album, you know, with the goat, and so it was just, and it was a great photo shoot. And then somebody's nephew, like their 10-year-old nephew, opened the back of the camera, which. Okay, so oldsters will know what that means. Like digital age, like what the fuck? I don't know. What's saved on the SD card? No, opening the back of a 35mm camera. Bye-bye. We got maybe 1 or 2 survived out of that. But,
man, that's so sad.
But you need to shoot like that. We had a lot of fun. We just like people were drunk, high on Mountain Dew, whatever we were serving back then.
Oh man! Now all I could think of is for your promotional photos. It should have been the couple that you had that were good, a half exposed one, and then a photo of him holding the camera open as a clean explanation about what happened. Like whether you did it intentionally or not, that's
I was trying to get the SD card.
Yeah.
The files are in the computer.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah, it's literally just a picture of Grig. Why?
Just like the curl of the film.
Come out of your hole.
Oh, man.
Children are terrible. All right, what are we talking? Jamie, what are you geeking about?
So, as you know, I've been going down this the photography rabbit hole. A friend of mine let me borrow his full sensor goddamn Gunga Din Nikon D800E.
Jesus Christ!
It is, and he let me borrow 2 lenses. One is I think it's like a 28-300, which weighs as much as Hazel does, and then this 60mm, which weighs slightly less than Hazel, but. I mean, Brandon, this is Mjolnir. Like, this camera is Mew Mew. Like, if I hit this on the ground and say the magic words, I'm fucking Thor. Like, this thing.
Yeah, because you're talking, what is this, a $1,600 body of the camera?
Yeah.
Not to mention without the lens?
Yeah. Yeah, and the 24-300 is like a $2,000 lens or something like that. I mean, these things are gigantic. So I went to a party like right after I picked up this camera from him, and I shot the party just because I knew like maybe a quarter of the people there. So having a camera in the hand is great because I could just go bloop bloop bloop. I'm taking photos this party.
Depending on where you were in Virginia, I could only imagine the leading thought processes of half the partygoers.
Yeah. But I found out that I don't like the all-in-one zoom. The 28-300, that's like every focal length, pretty much, except like the super wides. The only problem is there's a lot of lens distortion. So you don't necessarily notice it unless you're dicking around in Lightroom, but like there's a lens correcting thing if you're shooting in RAW. Lightroom will say, hey, I recognize this lens, let me fix it for you. And the distortion is very apparent at like the short end and the long end. So like in the middle, like 70 or so, it's not as severe, but I think I'm learning the types of lenses that I really want to use, and it turns out it's mostly primes because there's one focal length. If you want it bigger, you walk forward. If you want it smaller, you walk backwards, like the other end of the room, and you shoot a thing, and it looks great. So, yeah, I've been going down this rabbit hole. I convinced a cartoonist friend of mine to let me shoot an interview with her, just so I could figure out how to like light an interview setup and then shoot an interview setup and then insert B-roll and do all this kind of stuff.
We got that B-roll.
Gotta have that B-roll. So I'm gonna make her draw stuff and like pretend that you're making your comic, even though you're not updating for another like 3 days. So
that's always awkward to do.
Yeah.
I've had to do for you that with convention running. Like, give me a clipboard.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm trying to shoot more stuff because I figure it's like I'm approaching it like I do anytime I'm trying to learn something new, just shit out a whole bunch of awful stuff to get it out of the way, because you gotta make up for lost time. So I gotta keep shooting stupid photos. I gotta edit video. I gotta shoot things. Like I gotta film things and stuff. So I'm just kind of jumping into this rabbit hole because one, it's fun and it's a new thing, but also like if I could figure out how to make money at this, photography rates are a lot higher than illustration rates for some fucking reason.
This is true, but it's the same level of abuse. My mother was an amateur photographer, so a lot of the stuff that you guys have been geeking about cameras, I've heard before, but in a frame of reference of when she was still alive, like from the 1970s and 80s. And she let me read all her photography books, and she got an award by Kodak for some of the stuff that she did. Yeah, I wish I had a copy of it. She had gone to Africa and took pictures of cheetahs, and it won an award. Yeah, it's an expensive hobby. I mean, make no doubt about it. Like, you can try and write it off. You can say, oh, I'm a photographer, and then work that out with your CPA, because I don't know how deductions work. But, you know, that's the best you're really going to do with it. You know, because for every photographer that, like, it's kind of like illustrators. For every illustrator that's like Marvel and he's making a ton of money going to the convention circuits, there's like hundreds of like the rest of us, you know, just like I drew a stick figure, you know, that kind of thing. You know, it's like, how did Cyanide and Happiness become popular?
Yeah. Well, I figure the way to make it affordable is to like, I think I'm just going to hang on to, like, when I give the full frame back to my friend, I'm not going to bother upgrading to like a full frame. I'm gonna abuse the shit out of my APS-C as long as it holds up. And then if I'm going to shoot something important, like if it turns out that we have enough people for an art fight show, but I want to shoot it, I'll just rent the gear and like or ask friends, because I have photographer friends, like if they have recommendations for places to rent, or just borrow stuff. And you know, until I get to a point where I could actually make some money, then I might consider actually owning equipment. But at least for this, it seems like renting camera equipment is the way to go, because the technology just changes year to year, month to month, it seems.
I didn't even know that was an option, because when I think of renting camera equipment, I think of all other things I've rented, like, you know, like portable VCRs, cars, that sort of thing, and the way people abuse them. So it's like, oh, I got this great telephoto lens, and there's this gigantic gorilla hair just right across, just wiggly right across the center. You're like, how did that even get in there?
Yeah.
You know, like a big thumbprint that will not polish off.
Yeah, I was on a amateur a shoot for a pilot that a friend of mine was putting together, and all the equipment that we used was all rented or borrowed. Like the camera that we shot on was a Red, and someone he knew had a Red, and so we borrowed that. And then another friend of his had another Red, and he owned the camera, but he rented it out, and that's how he made his money. Like, he bought the Red and he rented it out because it was a big deal at that point. Like all the lights were borrowed, like everything on the set was borrowed. And I think if I want to get more into the videography, photography side of things, renting shit sounds like the way to go, because it's so expensive. Like, you know,
it becomes outdated, as you said.
Yeah. Like I don't know. I was thinking about that. Like, I don't know if there's a place that does that for like digital art equipment. Like if you can rent a Cintiq and stuff, or lease a Cintiq. But then I thought, I don't need to do that shit. I got everything I need right here. So I'm trying my best not to be a gearhead, but it's really hard.
Just promise me you won't be one of those photographers that like leaps into the middle of everything. In the 70s, there was somebody's mom. I was in elementary school. Somebody's mom had just become a shutterbug, and like her kid was on stage and choir, something normally you would put kids on stage for in an elementary school. And this woman leaps out and like jumping around the audience like a damn ninja. You know, it's like, I gotta get this. It's like, I'd like to see my son out of the way, like she's shooting war footage of Nam or something.
This is going to be my Pulitzer Prize winning photography project of my daughter. God damn it. Nah, for that I would just put a camera on sticks and sit back home. Fuck it.
Soon it'll all be like, you know, everything will be digital presence. It'll just be a big TV set. Nothing of Skype of the kids singing in choir with a bunch of webcams watching it that are wired in back at home.
Oh my God, it'll be like the Axiom in Wall-E. Everybody's like,
yes, there you go.
All right. Well, so we have a topic.
Oh, shit.
I thought, since we have Grig here,
okay,
Grig is the expert at conventions.
Fuck.
Whether you know this or
I am an expert, not the expert.
No. To me, you are the expert because you've seen the industry.
Very visibly.
Well, yeah, but I mean, for the past 20, 40, how many fucking years?
Been about 30 some years. My first one was 1983.
Yeah, so you've seen the industry as a fan, as an organizer, as a staffer, as a president, as you know, and you've worked with big conventions, you've worked with small conventions.
Yep.
Brandon, you and I have traveled to a bunch of different shows. We've done shows at high schools, we've done shows at large convention centers, we've done shows in LA. So I figure between the three of us, we ought to be able to come up with like the best con. The best, not necessarily the biggest convention.
Right, because that doesn't make it the best.
Right, but like the best convention in terms of treating the staff well, getting knowledgeable staff who knows how to do stuff, making sure registration is set so when guests come and performers come, they know where to fucking go. And, you know, people coming out of it saying, like, this is a great fucking experience. Instead of, like, oh, my God, I can't believe. Like, I don't know if you guys follow the YouTube sphere at all, but there was, like, a VidCon shoot-off called TanaCon, where this YouTuber thought she could put together a convention, and she couldn't, and it fell to shit, and people were out of all sorts of money. Last year, there was also
this is sadly common.
Yeah, last year there was another convention that was going to be held in Baltimore. I forgot what it was called, but it was supposed to be like a
Universal FanCon?
Universal FanCon, that's what it was. Universal FanCon exploded like the week before the show was happening, and then a friend of mine put together a show at the last minute in a Baltimore warehouse.
That was the most awesome part of that convention. The fans got together and pulled it together, because a lot of times, like, fans pulling stuff together is really dicey, but they really did it, and I cheered for them when I heard what had gone down.
Yeah, and it was great. Everybody had a great time except for the random sci-fi people, like from some of their shows that invited themselves to that other con because they were booked at Universal FanCon, and so they were on Twitter shit talking it the entire time, and we were like, first of all, you invited yourselves, but second of all, fuck you. This is amazing. So
okay.
So like ground rules. Okay. We need to establish ground rules. What would this convention?
Yeah, that's my first question. Is what kind of convention is it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I have experience. I can only tell you what I've had experience with. HR conventions, which we probably don't want to do. Although I can tell you wonderful things about drunk HR reps from the Midwest. No, you're in violation of California 5984. No, the funny thing about HR is everything in HR is like, oh, this is how you do this thing in a panel. And then there'll always be a separate panel. This is how you do the same thing, but in California. I don't know how fucked up California is, but they really messed up laws somewhere. However, science fiction and comic conventions, I know the fan base. I know what they're used to, what to expect. And I have seen when you say like, oh, I want to run this convention, and then it peters out.
Right.
The number one failure for that is people who don't have a plan. They don't have like I got one person I know. I'll drop his name because I love this guy, Ben Penrod, who runs AwesomeCon.
We love
right?
Ben.
We love Ben. Ben, when he said I'm going to do this AwesomeCon thing, and I saw him at a table at one of the Onizumi events, and I said, you're going to bring a Comic-Con to DC. And I wanted to say, let me tell you about the 12 Comic-Cons that tried to come into DC before you that failed utterly. Most of them failure to launch, or this anemic Demicon managed to still be alive with its last breath on the day that it opened and then died due to lack of exposure. No one could die from exposure. But he said, like, well, Greg, this is my plan. I'm doing a Kickstarter, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and then this money is going here, and then this is going, and then he had a plan. He had an actual business plan. And I'm like, well, fuck, if anyone's going to succeed, it'll be you. Yeah. However, let me tell you about these 12 conventions, and he did. And he said, like, I'm going to get 3,000 people to my first convention. I'm like, no way. I heard that 1,000 times. He had 2,000, which is still good. Yeah. And then he said, I'm going to double it next year. And I'm like, I don't know. Within like 4 or 5 conventions, he had like 30,000 people.
Yeah, AwesomeCon is huge.
I was totally wrong about him. He knew what he was doing. He had business partners. I started just watching him, listening to him, trying to filter through the, like, I'm so tired, man. I don't know. Like the stuff you hear from con chairs all the time. Yeah. But that number one, you need a plan. And you need to know, like, how conventions are run, where they failed before. The number one thing is people fail to promote. They think, like, I'm going to run a con so I can hang out with guests and they'll all be my best friends. No. When you're running a con, the only time the guest will speak to you is when something has gone horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah, you don't want them talking to you because you done fucked up somewhere.
William Shatner's agent will come to you and start every sentence with, look. So it's you don't want guests talking to you. You're so burned out by the whole process. And I was president for 4 years. I was con chair for a few years, co-chair with my late wife, Christine. It was a great experience. I'm glad I went through it. I don't know if I'd do it again because it's so intense. Yeah. It's just, and it sucks your life away. You're thinking about it day in, day out. Like, did I fill out that form? Shit, the fire marshal. I got to get this approved by the fire marshal before we open. All the stuff you don't think about. Plus dealing with hotel contracts, dealing with convention center contracts, which are like, these convention centers, these behemoths with unions, they're like, we'll tell you how to run things. You're like, Then you go with hotels. The manager who made the promises is a different guy 3 weeks later, and it's like, there's so many things that you run into. So you have to have a plan. You have to have milestones. Like, we will have this done by this date. Okay. And you have to have a staff that is really into it. That are self-starters. And that's really difficult with volunteers because there are some people who, when they promise they'll do a job, they mean it so much at the moment they promise it to you. They're like, I will totally be head of your operations. I will totally run security. I will totally do this. And they mean it 100% there. You could be an empath. You could be a fucking beta Z and read from the brain that they are telling the truth. And you're like, God bless it. And then a few days later, he means it. He's like 95% into it. A month later, he's 50% into it. Yeah. 2 months later, he's forgotten he's promised it.
We have no familiarity with that, Brandon.
I figured
none whatsoever.
All right. Okay. Well, then let's break this down. Brandon Chalmers, what?
I have a hard solution for this problem.
Okay.
A hard one-stop shop solution for this problem.
Okay.
I'm going to take the best of what I've experienced and the best of what Grig's experienced, and I'm going to make myself a fucking Reese's cup. Grig, you're talking about the insurance convention, right?
Yeah.
Straightforward. Right, the HR convention. People who are straightforward, there to do a job, there to deal with a thing, not necessarily prepared to have a good time, not dressed up in cosplay, and in most cases, not actually ready to commit any form of sexual harassment, or at least not intentionally.
Yeah.
You take that crew, and you take the game room from MagFest, and you put the two of them in the same area, and you let these HR people go out and enjoy themselves a beverage or two at the restaurants and or bars in the hotel, and then you provide them a free entertainment area to enjoy themselves and have these big bonding experiences that they try and force on everybody, where they do the trust falls and everything, and you actually just have them play Mario Kart with each other. And I guarantee you, when you let one HR person call someone else who's in HR a motherfucker for dropping a blue shell, you have fun with that day. And you have done more for the industry than you ever could have before.
We need hybrid cons.
And because that's the thing, is like MagFest sucks because nobody bathes, and
that's not true.
Okay, a lot of people don't bathe, and when you end up going into that con and into that game room, and they have what look like trash bags taped over the windows to block out the light, you're sealing in the freshness.
Oh, so no. They are actually trash bags.
Respectfully to that con, I have had a great time at that con. That con smells like a YMCA from the gates of hell. So
it takes 1 out of 1,000 people to do that.
Yeah,
one rotten apple.
I get that. So I'm trying to remove the rotten little fuckers.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking for employed people who are working full time.
Like
HR people, all right.
Like a medical devices convention and the MagFest game room.
I'm saying
I'm sure that actually exists.
Right, it has to. Like, there has to be.
The defense industry is filled with places like those.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there has to be that fun kind of let loose, but not too much. And video games are the kind of ultimate nullifier for everything, because you can have any type of game in any type of genre. People can talk smack with each other. They can leave it right where it belongs, and you can create any scenario where you could have tournaments. You can make it serious. You can schedule it. You can do whatever it is, or you can just have a good time. I would put a limitation and actually put a timeline on that thing and shut that thing down so you can actually get something accomplished.
Yeah.
But I think if you treat it like recess, essentially, where you're like, hey, kids, you've got meetings from 8 till noon. There's a giant luncheon with a huge buffet where everybody gets together. And then from 1 o'clock on until 11 p.m., the game room's open.
Bouncy house.
Right. And we can put some sort of requirement on it or something like that, where we ask that you post a selfie with someone who you've never met before and play a game with someone you've never met before. And you create that networking feature along with the convention. You still have a con. You still have all the functions. You still promote everything. You still sell everything. You still make plenty of money selling tickets. You still create a great time, and you create a relatively safe environment where no one is having an upskirt pic taken in most cases, or having to worry about the words cosplay is not consent. I think you take out a lot of the problematic issues of douchebags at cons and a lot of the boring stuff of professional cons, and you fucking just push them together.
I bet you could make a shit ton of money too, because these people are at a different monetary bracket than your typical anime fan or something like that.
Yeah, it's true.
Shit.
Now, okay. So here's some things that that I've noticed over the year, just little tidbits. Yeah. So a few years ago, my friends Sam and Julie and their roommate Adami wanted to dress up like Crackle the Dragon from My Little Pony. You don't have to know who these are, but it's basically like a Chinese dragon, but it looks really crappy. And it looks really crappy on purpose, because in the show, three ponies are trying to pretend to be a dragon with a thrown together costume, right?
Okay, right on.
So but because it's like a Chinese dragon kind of thing, they needed some security, really just handlers. So Julie was in the front and I was in the back, and then we had some of our friends on the sides, because sometimes people like to touch the costume.
Yes.
Now, I had never been to a BronyCon before. And I thought, well, I'm not going to go into this thinking like, oh, I'm going to be all 4chan and like, oh, they all suck and smell and they're all a bunch of weirdos. You know, it's like, yeah, well, I'm a weirdo. So I'm going to go to BronyCon and just take it at face value like I've never heard of it before. And I found out, one, it has a good vibe. But two, one of the interesting things I noticed is a lot of the parents taking their kids through, a lot of these kids have professional pedicures. Now, in order to have money to give your child, your 8-year-old, a professional pedicure means that there is a lot of money coming into the convention, pouring through the dealer's room. People were making money hand and fist in the dealer's room. Something I thought, like, how much can My Little Pony really generate as far as fandom? There's like, I don't know, like 10,000 people at the one that I went to. And, you know, the merchants were like, there was one guy, and this sounds so weird, but you got to imagine this. One guy sets up a table. He bought a table. I don't know how much he paid. Let's say it's $250 for the table, paid for a hotel room, probably cost him a travel and all that, maybe like $1,000, $1,200 to travel with his team to have this table. He had 5 ponies, all handmade, about the size of like a basset hound, you know, not very big, kind of a small, medium dog-like thing. 5 of these ponies. He sold them for $800, $900 a piece and was sold out by Friday, the Friday of the convention. Somebody has money to be paying, you know, $800, $900, $1,200 for these My Little Ponies. They're handmade. People were flying in from other countries to meet this artist. Jesus. And there were like at least 4 or 5 of them. And they made their money by Friday or Saturday if they were unlucky. And, you know, they've made several $1,000s. And they can just like, they can afford not to have merch for the rest of the time. And I'm like, where is this money coming from?
I need to get to that point.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, so that's... Go ahead. No, finish your thought.
Yeah, I was like, where is this money coming from? Now, you mentioned like the HR people. I met HR people. Sorry, there are more douchebags in HR than there are, but they're a different. They're a Dolores Umbridge type of douchebag.
Yeah, no, I'm not confused by there being douchebags in HR. I work in a professional environment.
Well, there you go.
Right. Like, I understand that those people are more than capable of working there, and a lot of them, much like police officers, probably shouldn't be in the job. It's the old joke. A buddy of mine has a son. He's in Cub Scouts. He was talking with another guy, and the guy was joking around. And he was like, you know how we pick the person who wants to go on the scouting trip? And you go, how? And you go, hey, guys, there's a scouting trip coming up. Who wants to volunteer to hang out with the kids? The first person that dislocates his shoulder to put a hand up, that's the last guy who's hanging out with your children. The guy who's either trying to make his way out of the room or is actively on his phone, that you have to shout his name twice, and his response is, fuck, what? No.
This is so true.
Yeah. Right. You don't know if your kids are actually going to learn anything, but no one's getting touched and no one's dying. Like, that guy is not going to be responsible for anything bad happening.
I had to, Sean Hare's kids, I had to take 2 of them to a scouting thing. It was like Lord of the Flies. He told me it was like Lord of the Flies. I'm like, Sean, you be exaggerating. I went there and I was like, oh my God, like, this is not the scouting I remember from the 70s. There are kids screaming, yelling, running around, not listening to their scoutmasters. And there's like 4 old guys running the entire thing. They look like they burned out like back in the Carter administration. You know, they are not with the program anymore. They are on inertia. Like the BSA like gives them zombie juice to keep going, you know, and you know, you don't want those type of people like in that job. No, more to my thought process. These are what I'm talking about. I'm really convinced that people should just be like Futurama kind of got it right. We should just draft you into something that you're not planning for. Like, if you're like, I don't want to be a fucking cop, be like, you're a cop because you're the guy that I want to do this thing. Like, that's how I became president of Katsu. Like, somebody said, you should run. And I was like, I've never been president. I've never owned a company. And they're like, yeah, but if you don't run, this person is going to be unchallenged. Just run. And I went, all right, I'll show you motherfuckers. Like, I'm going to run. And none of y'all are going to vote for me. And I like won 9-2. And I'm like, damn it.
Right. Yeah.
I like pouring over books, how to run a nonprofit. Fuck.
Right, because the realization is the thing that you didn't realize is everyone else was like, fuck that guy in particular. Yeah. So whoever was going to step up was suddenly going to win by a landslide. It was probably that dude voting for himself and then his best friend voting for him as well. Like, I guarantee you.
That was exactly what it was. And I got accused of like, you just won this because it was a popularity contest. And I went, yeah.
You said presidency. That's exactly what I did.
That's how voting works.
That's how voting works. You won because you were more popular than I was. Well,
yeah, but you would think that nerds would learn by now that in a popularity contest you may lose.
Like, pander.
Have these movies taught us like, nothing?
I was like totally not taking it. Well, I was taking it seriously, but I was like, not that many people are going to vote for me, and I won. And I was like, oh crap! Like it would have been something if it was like 5-4, but it was like 9-2. You know, it was like, oh no. But, I ran it, I fixed a lot of stuff for 5 years and I learned for 4 years and I learned a lot of stuff through it. But one question I do have for you, Brandon, how is what you're talking about different than E3? Because you have a lot of industry professionals and not a lot of fans and a lot of people selling to those industry professionals with demos. You got all the press in there and all that.
Okay, so the only comparable thing to E3 that I've experienced was we went to PAX. Okay. And
PAX
I can only reasonably, and this is going to be a weird statement, I will only reasonably speak to something that I've been a part of. So in my experience, PAX was a lot of fluff and not a whole lot else. Because by comparison to a MagFest, PAX, we tried to actually play a game. And we went through their silly process of like, okay, go squat on a machine. Now send a friend out to the video game room in a separate room. Now have them pull a card. Now have them trading their ID for a video game so that you don't steal it. Have them bring it back. Then meet the fucking Hydra that is
sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Where you have to then download the game to the PlayStation because it's never been in that one again. Wait the 45 minutes, realize that all hope is lost, wish that you had Mario Kart in the first place, and then yearn for MagFest.
It kind of sucked.
There's something very simple about the feature of MagFest. They keep it straightforward. All video games and arcade machines unlocked, while they may break from time to time, are a simple thing that anyone can walk up and figure out. The learning curve is not that of necessarily a controller, and you can have people get excited about stuff. Like, I can sit a bunch of 80s arcade machines in a room with a bunch of people. Hell, I guarantee you, Deborah, Karen, Joan, and Diane from your HR department will fucking throw down if they see a line of skee-ball machines. 100%. Like, no matter what. They may not be into Pac-Man. They'll definitely wreck some skee-ball. Like, we can solve this problem pretty straightforward. So, E3, I feel like, is more grandstanding on the sense of selling things to the public because it's become more of a social media thing and a presentation thing than actually enjoying as a convention. For me, a convention needs to be a place where like-minded people gather to either enjoy or educate themselves about something, whether they're there voluntarily or mandatory based on an employer. Can I make that an enjoyable experience and also remove a lot of the negative things that I have seen from my experience at fan conventions? And when I shit on things with other fan conventions, they are solely single experiences, but man, do they stick with me. Dudes taking really creepy photos of really underage girls. That ain't right. Dude, like, the photo scene with the cosplay thing is such an uncomfortable thing for me because I understand that a large majority of them are all over the age of 18, are absolutely giving consent, and are absolutely aware of what's going on, and more power to them, and I am 1,000,000% to it. You're not that guy, Jamie. By comparison, when we were at Wizard World and I was watching a dude stand behind his table, compliment a girl, and say, hey, can I get a photo of your cosplay? And they go, great, yeah, sure. And they do their pose that is appropriate for their character. And he's like, do me a favor, can I get another one where you put your hands on your hips? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then he's like, okay, let me get one more. Can you arch your shoulders back a little bit? And it's like, I don't need to watch you fill your spank bank, sir. Like, whether you've vetted to outsmart them or whether they feel uncomfortable enough, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I need to remove that environment there, and I don't want to necessarily punish cosplay as a whole, but I want to make sure that, like, I don't think anyone is heading to an insurance convention dressing as the fucking gecko. Like, no, just paying the one guy. And
I am Flo. Actually, there's Flo cosplay.
Oh, there's Flo fanfic. Oh my god!
Honestly, like, I'm good with a Flo photo meetup where like the 90 Flows all meet together on the stairs and keep anybody from going anywhere for like half an hour.
That would be amazing.
That would be funny.
Yeah, but like, I see so many problems with that, and it's why, like, I want to try and focus on a con, like, for me, a con that is predominantly for people set between the ages of probably 23 and 38 or 40. So, you know, millennial, solid millennial, just outside of millennial on the higher end, industry specific with a bit of a fun twist. It's like taking your office to go bowling. You get a chance to kind of let your hair down a little bit, and you get out of your comfort zone a little bit, and people bond in unlikely ways.
See, I see this in professional circles as well. Like, let's just take HR. Now, I used to work for SHRM, Society for HR Research. It was a nonprofit, huge, 280,000 members worldwide, you know. And so they had at least 10 conventions a year, and I did a lot of their AV and tech for it. So, which, you know, when you're in IT, they're like, oh, you work with machines? Sure, you could do AV work. Anyway,
yeah,
so
sure.
I got to see a lot of these talks and presentations and things like that. And I got to see a lot of the after parties that were sponsored by SHRM. And so I don't think they're as professional as you think they're, Brandy. Because, okay, you talk about like, oh, this person's taking a cosplay. For every one of those, there's the creepy guy that hangs around the bar and the piano feeling up some, you know, mid-40s woman in her pantsuit because he's got a mommy thing going on.
Yeah, okay.
So it does happen there, and sales conventions are an entirely different thing. But you didn't mention sales conventions.
No. But hang on a second. Let's separate the two things out, though, because if I use the MagFest model, right? MagFest does not actually have any sort of bar-related sort of thing where, like, you're in a ballroom, they're set up a bunch of bars, alcohol is provided in one specific area, people are able to kind of linger and then hang out. MagFest is you get kind of fucked up in your room, you kind of sneak a flask on the floor, you maybe hit a bar or whatever it is, but no one's hanging out at that sports bar looking to hit on someone dressed as a peach all night.
Right.
They're hanging out in the other room, and there's a separation of the two, and there's enough real estate and not necessarily pumping music for people to be able to actually get away.
Yeah. So are you suggesting a convention that would be like MagFest, but for the, like, 25 on up or 30 on up crowd? Would that be repeating what you're saying, or is that different than what you're saying?
It's very similar to what I'm saying, and I think there are some edges that we could sand off of MagFest and make them more appropriate for people of that age bracket. But I think if those, like, I have to believe that if the cons that you were talking about were less like high school dances for the evenings and more like fun hangouts in your buddy's living room, it would be a much different feel and a much different experience.
Now, that leads to the next question is, like, you know, because, okay, we have a plan, we have a genre, we have an age group, we have a demographic, we know who to target. How do we market it? Because there was a long time ago, there was a science fiction convention, I think it's still around, up in Boston called BosCon. And BosCon, one year, I don't know if it's still this way, but one year said no one under the age of 18 allowed. They just cut it. They just said like that. Now, back in those days, fandom was kind of an even mix of people above 18, below 18. And admittedly, a lot of the, you know, teenagers were there to party. And then there were a lot of serious sci-fi people who were there to listen to the guests, do the literary stuff and all that kind of stuff. And then they dropped the 18 or under. The backlash was horrible. Now, this is 1987, so it might be a different environment now, but the backlash was terrible. And a lot of people are like, well, we're going to ban BosCon because they won't let people in. Their ageism, all this stuff. Now, admittedly, this is before the internet, so a lot of this, pre-internet, a lot of this complaining happened in letters to the editor, to fanzines and whatnot. You know, the people that would write into the fanzines going like, I think what BosCon is doing is a complete tragedy. They are totally cutting themselves off from the younger fandom, and they are going to die as a convention. Well, they didn't die as a convention, but it did hurt them severely. And I don't know if they ever rescinded that. I think they did. But if we have a convention where we say, hey, this is for the older, mature crowd, the vast majority of the people that go to MagFest, I think, will tear us apart in the media.
Well, Please understand, I'm not looking to create a public convention.
Yeah. We advertise to the employers.
I don't have any interest, and this is kind of a general statement of me. I have no interest in what the internet wants, what fandoms want, or any of the combination of the two, because all you end up getting are very little people giving you praise and a ton of people picking apart every fucking thing that you possibly can. I'm looking to market our brand of convention that is scalable and themable to different types of conventions. We, if we're doing an HR convention, we offer workshop spaces, forum panel rooms, large rooms, and a game room. Like, we essentially provide a playroom. You provide the people, and then we can assist you with guests that we have booked at other conventions, or we aggregate a list of people that we would suggest reaching out to for that sort of thing. And we don't make it a big public thing.
Mm-hmm. And you directly advertise to the employers of the various markets that you're working with, and they'll hear about you. Like, there are a bunch of scientific conferences that people from the NIH go to that no one outside like the medical field know, but everyone at NIH knows. Like, there's ALAS. Everyone knows about ALAS because they go to it every year. But like, if you don't know anyone in the sciences, you don't know what the fucking ALAS is. And I think that way you kind of insulate yourself from some of these outside, like the I mean, there are creepers within every industry, but I think we cut down that by like focusing on the various employers.
I think you could probably solve a lot of the marketing problem by doing what a lot of anime cons I've seen do. Book a table at another con, and if we set up a couple video game areas, like instead of having a table, you pull the table all the way back, you create a horseshoe, and you have some video games set up. And
they're like, Katsucon did for a lot of our tables.
Right, and you're just like, what's up with this? And you go, hi, we're with yada, yada, yada. We do a different kind of HR convention. What are you talking about? Well, we offer all of the things that this place does, and we absolutely enjoy this content. It's incredibly well put together. But you got to admit, it is a little dry. We're looking to inject a little bit of fun into this. And somebody goes, oh, that sounds kind of neat. And then you say, yeah, and we can scale and based on what you're looking for. And we can do, we can list the games, the appropriate ages for them, what the brackets are type. We can scale the types of games. If somebody's a much older style convention, we add more pinball machines, more this or that. Like, we can actually look to see what were the popular games for what age demo and see if we can source those machines. We could use the backbone of the MagFest gaming tool to then support them on the back end and turn MagFest into a 365-day-a-year business that actually continue to fund other cons in the future.
Yeah, we create a platform for all these other industries.
Well, I'm a little sad that Dom's not part of them anymore. Big Adam, if you hear this, I'm willing to work for you.
So everything but the game room was like a SHRM convention called SHRM Talent. And it was people who were just HR enthusiasts who wanted to come out with other HR enthusiasts. And literally there was I think 12,000 people that showed up to this thing. Yeah. We filled a ballroom. We had those open bars like you mentioned. We had guest speakers. We had panels. But it was basically, and the lobby had, those ribbons you can buy with stuff on them. You peel a sticker, stick it on your badge. Yeah. They had dozens of stands of these that said I am certified with this HR certification. I am from the South. I'm from Louisiana. I'm from Maine. I'm from England, or whatever. And so people could stick these ribbons on and they could be like, I'm from all this group, and everything but the gaming that you mentioned. So in my head, I'm trying to shoehorn the gaming in with a lot of these people from the Midwest who wear pantsuits, who to them a game controller might be intimidating because that's what their kid knows.
But they could rock a pinball, yo.
But it doesn't have to be HR. I think if I take what, the HR, if you're using that as just like a variable, a stand-in example in your thing, it doesn't have to be HR, but it can be like people who are in the audio industry.
Yeah.
Audio, like people who do studio recording, who are in professional equipment,
If NAM had a game room, people would go to this thing instead of NAM.
And Grig, please understand, we could do a different thing where we don't call it a game room, we call it the toy box. And we could fill it with whatever would be appropriate for your thing. If we're talking about maybe an older audience that wouldn't necessarily be comfortable with game controllers, then we go with more classic style, your pinballs, maybe like your 80s video game machines that are a little easier to tackle than some other things. And then weird things like the gigantic walkable pianos or something like that. Or like just dumb big toys where essentially you end up
Busters for
and I think with a group like the people that you're talking about, if my experience has taught me anything, if you provide people an open and safe environment, relatively free from judgment, a lot of people, especially if they've had a beer or two at the bar with dinner, will end up leaning into their buddy and go do the thing. And then they end up doing the thing, and then their buddies are doing the thing. And the next thing you know, everybody else is having a good time. And when someone in that age bracket sees someone else in that age bracket comfortably doing this thing, they go, fuck it, let's have a good time, let's go do the thing and let's relax. Like I'm relatively convinced that the effect will snowball itself.
Oh yeah.
And if I think you're worried about it, we could actually hire a few people based on the demos, because you're going to end up getting all of the registration. We can ask for date of birth on the registration proof for when we actually get the IDs to verify everything. We would have all the data for date of birth. We can pull a listing of how many people in what age brackets. We could hire an actor or two to come out and actually just start playing the games as if they're from another thing, and just plant them and then put them in there. If everyone's going to be a wallflower, someone's got to be the one who jumps in the middle and just starts dancing.
See, like the HR, I'm thinking like, there's like all these other things. But like with something with a recording studio, it's close enough to techie people that are a little bit like more familiar with working with like stuff like video game like devices, like buttons and knobs and stuff. And then have it like, because I could see them. Okay, so there's several things that good ideas that come off of your idea, Brandon. Here, one, whatever the opposite of an open bar is, because I don't want to pay their alcohol tab. But
and that's what I'm saying.
If the hotel does the catering for that, they will make money hand over fist. Of course, they always charge you like rentals. Like you wouldn't believe, hotels make money in the weirdest ways, and one of them is corkage. So if you say, I want to have a bar, even if you have to pay for drinks, they charge your convention like $20,000, $50,000 an hour, something like that. It's some obscene amount where you're like, really? Verizon pays for that? They do. But if we can get enough capital to like launch us for the first 3 years, probably we'll start getting a reputation, especially if we do it right. If we're a good business and we're not, I really want to run this business, and I mean it 100%, and then a week later, I mean it 95%, because I have been guilty of that myself, to the point where I've limited myself. Like right after I left Katsu, I had 2 conventions offer me to run their convention. And one of them was like in Denver. And I thought, wow, what you should really do is you should leverage on the pot thing, for anime. And they stopped talking to me. But I didn't, I really wasn't going to take it if they seriously offered it to me. And then there was another convention that I can't talk about because I had to sign an NDA. But in the end, it was basically like a convention that was not, a white male would not do very well in, because it is not for white men. It's actually to promote a minority. And I thought, having a white guy run it, not exactly your best.
That's kind of
best.
off.
No, I mean, that makes sense, but I could also understand having you on as a high-level consultant.
I did offer that, and they did use my consultant services.
Right. So like that makes sense, but like I could very quickly say, okay, let's assume we use the Gaylord as an example, right?
Yeah.
If we say, hey, we're booking a convention. Here is what the last, HR style convention that they end up doing pulled into the general area. The hotel is capable of doing this. We would like to run a promotion not in the hotel. not necessarily at the restaurants in the hotel, but the surrounding restaurants. We go to the restaurants and say, hey, we'd like to run a promotion with you that you offer a menu specifically for anyone who has a badge from our con. It has a special short menu of items at a slightly discounted price and like 2 drink specials that are at a discounted price that are all themed around whatever the convention is or the company is or whatever it is.
If in order to do that, here's because people have done this. The reality of it is that if you think hotel managers change fast, you should see restaurant managers.
Oh, yeah.
So if you make a deal with like the manager of this place like a year in advance, it has gone through probably 10 managers by the time it got, and that guy, no one's told him squat.
No,
so, and the second thing is like Ben tried to do that one year with Awesome Con. No one took advantage of it. Ooh. But then again, that's a different type of. He said like it just didn't. The restaurant said it didn't give any ROI. We didn't have anyone showing badges. We knew they were at the con. They were in costume, but they didn't ask for any discounts.
Right.
So he's like, it didn't really do much for us. And they're kind of forced to come to our restaurants anyway because they're right next. They're the closest to convention center.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean your idea is bad. It just has to keep that in mind as an obstacle we have to overcome.
Yeah, and I think something like if we let's assume that we picked that one company or whatever it is, and you have emails that are going out to it. If when you buy your badge to come to the thing, it automatically sends an email that tells everyone about the promotions that are happening at the nearby restaurants. If we set them up on the mailing list that leading up to the con, you buy your badge 6 months out. Once a month for the first 4 months, it sends that reminder email. Then it sends it at closer intervals as a reminder. Hey, the following things are promotional tied to the convention. Take advantage of them. Enjoy yourself. And we literally just don't even mention some of the other things. We just keep pushing it. We can reinforce, have contractual obligations with some of the restaurants. I agree. Restaurant managers, not necessarily who I'm looking for. I'd like to try and contact a lot of those restaurants. They have their actual chains. We contact the corporate body of that because I think if you've got that sort of thing, you can lock that down and bring it on from on high. I know that is not 100% solution to it.
Had that with the Hard Rock Cafe. I don't know if you guys were around when we had the promotions. We had the pins with our anime logo on it and everything.
Oh, cool.
The Hard Rock Cafe had a table at our convention separate from Artist Alley and dealers. They were like right in the middle of everything. We had a contract with them, I think, 4 years, and we held our after con party there. So
that's fun.
We rented out the whole place, but literally we got too big. That's why we had to abandon that idea. They could only sit like a Hard Rock Cafe in DC can only sit 300 people before they violate a fire code. And my staff, when I last was president, was 650 people. Oof. So, and that is so hard to have an after party for. But getting back to what you're saying here, like in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, so we get people in the recording industry. We get to have this thing. You can meet professionals in the recording industry. A Pioneer. We have whoever makes decks. We have some of the new tech in there. And then we have like a big gaming area with like adult games, like you said, with a bar. They pay for their drinks and everything like that. We have certain events. I think that is closer to what's known as an industry convention with a gaming twist. Which may or I don't know how that would do. There's part of me that thinks like, well, I've never heard of a convention like that. It just sounds like, oh, they just threw a gaming room together as a last. It's just another corporate thing. Oh, gaming room sponsored by Pioneer, and Pioneer half-assed it, or whatever. But we have to make it somehow more of a focus. Like here we are a thing, but we also have gaming. And in my head, I'm trying to mash these two pieces together, and I'm not quite getting it. But that doesn't mean it's a bad idea. That just means that it hasn't been done yet, which may actually mean it's a good idea. So, I don't know.
We keep kind of circling back to the whole thing of it's not necessarily a bad idea. I'm tapping a market that is definitely there. And I think we're all in agreement that MagFest is a lot of fun, and these industry conventions kind of are going to happen no matter what, so we may as well enjoy them. Yeah. If we've got some small, hurdles to jump over.
I know, we'll hold it in a food truck. No, sorry.
Oh, fuck.
honestly, trying to figure out a way to just park a food truck inside of the big gaming room and we solve the food problem that way is its own separate conversation.
Yeah. The hotel would never allow it.
I know they would.
One question though. Okay, would you compare our idea versus Black Hat and the big hacker convention? I know it's not. Black Hat is held at the same time. DEF CON. That's what I'm thinking of. So DEF CON is kind of like where all these industry professionals, heavies that are hackers and whatnot, all get together and they have this huge conference about security hacking. Like a lot of maker people are there. And the big names have huge promotional things at their hotels. And like, Loft, which I don't think is anything anymore, but L0FT, which used to write this back-end a hack into Microsoft Office. It was like a big thing. They held a huge party, and they had like professional performers, like from a band, at this kind of thing. I don't remember anyone having a gaming room per se at DEF CON, but it strikes me that somebody probably promoted one.
I mean, realistically, if we're talking about doing the same aggregate thing of figuring out the average age of the people who are going to be at this con from previous conventions, and then saying that, like, hey, the average age of the people who are going to be at this con are, 61 years old, and we've got, Aflac money, and we want to book what's left of the Eagles to do an acoustic set. Fuck it. Like, why not? Like, my dad used to work for Quest Telecom. They did a convention at the Bellagio. They had the Eagles do an acoustic set. That's when you got fuck you money. But, yeah. Honestly, if a big corporation who is adjacent to the industry that we're doing wants to throw money at something and do something really cool, awesome. Let's do that. Let's do that again, and then twice on Sunday. I'm not above taking corporate money for this. I'm not running for office. I'm trying to create an enjoyable experience.
Right.
Also, if someone else wants to, instead of dealing with the thing at the hotel, they want to host an event at a ballroom or whatever it is, and they essentially, our people have the option of going to this thing and essentially sitting their way through a timeshare presentation to get free filet mignon and a couple of champagnes. Fuck it. Mm-hmm. This is happening. There's a presentation from Pioneer. They're serving steak and tacos or whatever the fuck. There's free Corona out there.
That happens at a lot of times.
It starts at 6 p.m. Here's what's going on. And the floor will shut down at this time, and the party will start at so we shut the floor down at 5:30. The party starts at 7. You've got enough time to go home, or go up to your room, get a little time to decompress, get yourself a shower, figure out what you want to do for dinner, and then decide: do I want to go to the party? Do I want to go to one of the local restaurants? Cool. I'm good with that. The Gaylord area is perfect for that because there are so many hotels around. If we don't book it in fucking February, you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there are some other things to take into consideration that would add to the success of this. One, I honeymooned in Vegas back in October. Vegas is becoming anemic. I don't know what's happened to Vegas, but it's becoming so genericized that it's becoming if anybody remembered Washington, D.C., what used to be Columbia Heights in the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, a rundown, dangerous, ghetto. Yeah. But you had a lot of arty people there. And then if you look at it now, it's all office building. It's all what they call gentrified, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a bad statement to use, but Vegas has become
loaded.
Yeah, it's loaded.
Yeah.
Vegas has become kind of gentrified. I went to the Excalibur. It was a hotel with a minor medieval theme. I went for the cheese. I went for, because both Candy and I were into cheese. We're like, we're going to go here and we're going to see things and we're going to have fun just because we're weird and bizarre.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went there. And it was kind of okay, we did go to the King Arthur's thing, and it was cheesy, just as I thought it would be. But it was fun. We knew it going into it. But the rest of it was kind of every casino was the same.
Huh.
And it didn't used to be like that. So the Excalibur, in the 90s, had a show every 2 hours where Wizard would shoot fire from his hands and fight an animatronic dragon that would float out of nowhere. I went to Vegas the first time. This, if somebody asked the question, what could unlimited money provide? Vegas was the answer. It's the Bellagio, when it opened, had a $1.2 million glass chandelier for the lobby.
Yeah.
you know, like this hand-blown thing that's like, God, like the size of a small Korean island. I don't know.
Jesus.
So it was like, it was huge, and then they had fountains and all that.
Yeah.
Now a majority of the special stuff gone. Treasure Island doesn't have like a pirate fight every 2 hours. All this stuff is kind of gone. So we need to kind of like push this fun back in, and it doesn't have to be Vegas. Because, you know, Vegas is the big convention place. They have the most convention centers. They have all this stuff. Everybody can get to Vegas, but recently, you mentioned the Gaylord. The Gaylord might not be the best idea, but a newly opened hotel next to it is the MGM there, which is just up the hill.
Oh, that casino, yeah.
The MGM would be much better for this type of venue, I think.
I be honest with you, Grig, I would be good with picking a lesser-known city that would be much cheaper than outside of DC. I don't think we gain, especially if we're doing any sort of like destination convention, I don't see what we gain by being near a gigantic major city. You book the thing in Toledo and you're like,
Pittsburgh
what's going on here? Yeah, like you pick a medium-sized city and then you figure out, okay, what is medium-sized, relatively walkable within areas of where your convention center is, a hotel that can accommodate everything, and then do that.
So that's a big if. You mentioned convention centers. Those are usually attracted to main cities. Now, there are like some, I guess, D-list cities. You know, you mentioned Toledo. so people in Toledo are going to be right in our show. Both of our users are very angry.
I'll go on record. Fuck both of you.
Minneapolis, St. Paul, one of those D-list cities, and it's like you go because you have to go. I think those have convention centers. But I've had friends who have tried to run, admittedly, comic conventions at those convention centers. They did a lot of promotion. They had a successful business plan, and it died because not a lot of people were willing to fly to Minneapolis. And I don't know why that happened, but it's happened to two people.
Because it's fucking cold.
But they didn't. One was in spring, and the other was in the summer.
Okay.
And I think,
Yeah, but like if you do an industry con, people are going to end up having to travel to the thing anyway, and we don't necessarily have to do a Toledo. We
and
can
it's expensed for them.
Like
so.
I may or may not be heading to. Well, fuck it. I'm not going to name my company, but I am heading out in the beginning of March to Schaumburg, Illinois, which is right outside of Chicago. It is equidistant from Chicago O'Hare Airport.
There you go.
There is a small convention center in Schaumburg. Okay. So there are hotels that are all around that area. There are office buildings that are all around that area. It has a lot of food options right around that area. You are basically 30 miles from downtown Chicago. You are far enough away that you are not paying Chicago prices, but you are close enough that you can take advantage of their airport, transportation, capabilities, amenities, and you can do that sort of thing. You can say, okay, let's not book it in, Baltimore. Let's book it at Annapolis. Let's do, something adjacent to that major city.
Yeah,
that may or may not
good.
Have an armory building, a big promotional venue, whatever it is. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a convention center. If we've got a big room with a couple satellite rooms that we can run some panels into and a decent hotel and some food around there, we're good.
You could do it at College Park, honestly.
Right. But so I think there's a very doable thing where you avoid a lot of the unnecessary pricing of everything and the trappings of a Vegas or whatever it is.
Because these people would be going just to the convention. Now, a lot of people would go to, like, say, KatsuCon just for the convention, but there's a lot of other stuff in DC to see and things like that. Like a lot of our guests would have a list of things they wanted to see when they flew in. Like, I want to go to the White House. We actually had people that was for that.
First, call your senator. Yeah,
that's right. But I think like Toledo's and Minneapolis, St. Paul's, and things that are cities that do have hubs that people can fly to, that they can be indoors. And Minneapolis, St. Paul, probably not a good idea during the winter. Although you could get really good rates at that time.
Where's Connecticut held?
It's Connecticut, I guess Connecticut.
Hartford.
Yeah, Hartford.
Yeah.
Not super walkable, but I get the idea.
Yeah, but That is more in the HR realm. That's more of what is part of your idea. Yeah. And I think this is, not with HR, but I think like with the recording industry or something that's tangentially electronic, music industry, something like that would
medical devices.
Yeah. And it might be conceivable enough to have a business loan because, like, you've run Super Hard Fight, I've, run KatsuCon, so we could, like, we'd have to drop. Yeah, well,
we run Super Hard Fight.
That's. Okay, I totally the garage band that is. Super Hard
I was going to say,
Fight.
I still have business cards, Jamie Noguchi.
There you go. See,
I'm fucking important.
He probably has a suit in a closet. We'll clean.
I do. Good. And I shake it out every so often just to keep it fresh.
And just keep out all references to the dead bush in the front of his yard. So,
by the way, the amount of joy that I saw when you were talking about that bush that was taking down your fence, I couldn't bring myself to give you a hard time because I know it's super inside baseball, but yeah.
Oh, you totally should have. I would have laughed hysterically. But I think that this is something that could be drafted as a business proposal. The third part that I would ask is I mentioned marketing. You covered that. I mentioned planning and stuff like that. Research and development, I think, would be something we'd have to go to other conventions and find out what the demographic is to further hone our target and our audience to figure out, this convention kind of does what we are. How are we different from that? Because people that come to our table are like, how are you different from E3? And you're like, you ask a very good question. I can tell you're a very smart and shrewd consumer. 9 years of retail. Thank you.
Road trip. Yeah. We could take photos.
Yeah, I can just imagine it. All I picture is all of us in different style conventions that we don't belong in, looking like Steve Buscemi in a high school. Hi, young people. I also enjoy rock and roll.
Oh my God!
I'm just gonna do this the entire time.
I would compare like stuff that I did at sci-fi conventions to the HR conventions, and there were cross ideas. Like, for instance, there was one of them where they're like, how in the world are we going to tell everybody the secret Wi-Fi password because we were paying for it by connection without like rogue people taking it over? And I said, why don't you put a sticker on their badge, which Onizumi had done for many years. And they're like, oh my God, like that's the best idea ever, the sticker on the back of the badge. So there's cross-pollination. When I was running, like, it was funny, like when I left as president, I said, my retirement job at Katsu will be running the art show because it's like the defense of the dark arts at KatsuCon. Like, when he doesn't run it for many years, something horrible happens to them. So I was doing that for about 3 years. I set up a staff and everything like that before I officially retired. But I would go to other craft shows. Usually I tacked on, poor Kelsey, I tacked on to some of the stuff she was doing. Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. Sheep and Wool
is amazing, yeah.
It is. Oh my God, it's the Comic-Con of wool.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many people there. I was like, I can't move.
It's so great.
I can't get to this other booth because there's way too many people.
Yeah.
There was also Monster of a show. For those people who are local to Baltimore, look it up.
I've heard good things about that one.
It's like held, I didn't go to the one this year, but it's usually it was held in a church cafeteria, like 16 vendors. So you're thinking like, how good could that be? It's really good. And the people that run it had really good ideas. Like, how about we feed our vendors? Stuff like that. Now, you can't do that in hotels. But you can do it in a church cafeteria.
Yeah.
So there are other things, there are other ideas that I was saying, I want to do this. Now, I did for the Artist Alley, like for KatsuCon. One year, somebody, I forgot who, it was some sponsor, said, anime people like Pocky, and they sent us like pallets of Pocky. and so towards the end of the weekend, they were like, get rid of this. It's blocking hallways. It's like, we have to get rid of this. So I took like a huge section of it and I just started handing them out to the artists, and they went fucking berserk. They're like, ah! And then I got like chastised for it, like officially, like on the record. Greg did a bad thing. This goes on his record because I gave the artists food.
Oh man,
because that violates the corkage laws. And I'm like, but I gave them free food that was given to us by this big sponsor, and they loved me. And another time, we were filling in when the bridal show was piling out, and they left so much crap behind.
Bridal show. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
There's money in them Thar Hills.
Oh, no kidding. That and home improvement. So they had left like a whole bunch of like all these gift bags behind, and I didn't know what to do with them. And there were so many of them, and there were people lined up because they were signing in. And I said, "Attention, all artists! On this table, there are approximately 25 unguarded gift bags from the bridal show. I'm going to turn my back for a few hours. If something should happen to them, oh well, they shouldn't have left them here." And I turned my back, and I heard a noise that must have been what the Native Americans used to hear buffalo sounding like before the white man slaughtered most of them. You know, just like the stampeding, you know, and it was just gone. And then I found out later there was like iPods in them.
Oh, fuck.
Not all of them. There was like 2 or 3 of them with iPods, one of them with an iPad. Several of them had marriage accoutrements. in on various speeds and a rechargeable USB.
See, that's where you miss your opportunity, man. You got to be selfish. You take those, you put those off to the side. You say, "Hey, let me go through these. There's free stuff."
Buff pads and like gift certificates to Bed Bath & Beyond and shit I never used. And then someone's like, "I got an iPad," and I'm like, "Oh."
That's why you check all the bags, not just the ones on the top.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, you see a bunch of bags, you go, "Okay, I'm going to go take these somewhere safe in case someone asks about them." And you take all of them to your hotel room. You wait a day. A solid day until no one says anything. Then you start tearing through them, and then you determine what's a Grig gift and what's a Christmas gift. And then anything else you hand out to everyone else, like your staff that you really like. "Hey, I know that you're working extra hard, so do me a favor. When you get back to the hotel room, here's a bath bomb for you to unwind."
so like the next year, like Peri Peri Chicken just on their own brought 2 duffel bags filled with like rolls. Right, they're like chicken wraps and stuff like that. All they look like burritos.
Nando's Katy Perry gave you food.
Yeah, like 200 of them, like in these 2 huge duffel bags. They say, "We'll be back in 2 hours for the bags." So I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't give away food. So I went to the artist and I said, "If you're hungry for Peri Peri, go up to the artist central table and say, 'Is my food delivery here?'" And I told no one. Now I can say it aloud. You know, it was like it's just, you know. So, but anyway, back to the convention planning. I think that this is a conceivable idea. It would need research and development so that we can hone a business plan. We would have to have capital. We'd have to have some investors, figure out how that's done for that industry, because in the anime industry, usually are private individuals. Like Katsucon used to be for profit for the first 3 years. And then a mysterious thing happened where they said, "We haven't made a profit yet. The chair has bought a new pickup truck," you know. So then they reformed as a nonprofit for Katsucon 4 and have been nonprofit ever since, which is a viable business option if we want to do the volunteer route, or for something like this,
we want money.
Yeah,
we want money.
You can make, like, people in SHRM, okay, it's a nonprofit. The CEO of SHRM made $9 million a year. Like, you can make money in a nonprofit.
Yeah.
But you have to, like, file taxes and do things different with
now we need to hire professionals to run this thing, because volunteers.
That's the thing is, I don't want my staff to be fuckery.
No.
And I worry about that sort of thing, like you were talking about that sort of thing with like the badges and the little icons or whatever it is. I want to pay some people to do that for you. Yeah. When you check in and you go, "Hey, what's yada yada? Oh, I see you're from Louisiana. You have these certifications that you have. Hang on one second. Let's get your badge together for you. You get this banner and this banner and this banner and this banner. And you end up getting your lanyard and looking like a fucking 5-star general when that thing's hanging from your chest."
Yeah.
Because I've spent
and there are people
years
that do that. There are registration companies. Eventbrite, actually, you can hire Eventbrite to show up, do your registration. They do it all on wireless iPads and stuff. Just plan it in, and it connects to your Eventbrite stuff. So
Comic-Con every year, they pay their registration people. Everything else I think is volunteer, but they pay the registration people.
Well, they do.
And that shit is figured out.
they do pay a lot of their staff because of certain laws. And I know people made like minimum wage working just as a volunteer on the floor of the Javits Center. But there was a controversy of another convention that, that it was an LLC, but the volunteers were like compensated, but some weren't. And it became a huge nightmare. Well, I agree. We should be a business. We should be like an LLC, so we don't, if our convention gets sued, we don't lose our houses.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. Hire a lawyer. And when I took over as president, that was one of the first things I did. I said, we need a real accountant. We don't need like, Bob, who does it part-time because he had a CPA in college that he didn't finish. We need a real lawyer. Which I hired for KatsuCon, which was a great boon in getting contract paperwork signed, made sure we weren't screwed. We got event insurance in case we get, like KatsuCon could get snowed out, and we have event insurance that covers that. So,
nice.
So there's all kinds of things like that I know from the business end. A lot of stuff, a lot of the keywords and the terms that you use, Brandon, leads me to believe that at least you've hung around with people that have run businesses, if not run a business yourself, because it's true. I don't know, like a lot of people are like, I would never be a landlord. I don't want some tenant calling me up at 3 a.m. telling me to unclog their toilet. And it's like, that's why you hire a company to do that for you.
Yeah.
They answer the phones, they send a plumber, they send you the bill. So-and-so tenant, asked for unclogging the toilet, and the plumber said it's because it's their son flushing down entire rolls of toilet paper, and Brandon's just sitting outside shaking his finger, said, shouldn't have kids. So
right, yeah, like well, and the reality is it's a hell of a lot easier for me to yell at someone that I've contracted and hold them obligated than physically being responsible for unclogging that thing myself, because if I unclog it myself, I'm responsible for everything afterward.
Yeah.
I would rather subcontract an Eventbrite to handle all of that part of it, because in my mind, my time is worth more than anyone else's, and if I continue to operate that way, that will protect my bottom line. I'd rather make less and be more successful as far as the numbers, because the more people who are at that show are more likely to book me somewhere else, and I will continue to do events. I'm good with putting on a great show and making $5 or $6 grand or 10 grand or 20 grand personally less than I would with the other one, because I know the business is going to keep coming, and I don't have to worry about that sort of thing. And I know that I can renegotiate, and I can say, well, Eventbrite charged me X number of dollars this time, but now I want to, we did 12 events with them. I've got another, 9 events in contract. I plan on redoing all 12 of those events, and I need to do another couple, and I'm going to go back to Eventbrite, and I'm going to say, hey, I've got 24 events, 12 of them contractually obligated, and all of these other ones, I want to renegotiate my contract price, or I'm going to start going to talk to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And start getting a better price and start nailing those things down a little bit.
Now, do you guys know
that way?
Do you know Andy Lange? Have you heard his name, Doc? He runs a tech company that he started actually at conventions called Circuit 6. And we've had long discussions about how to run a business, who to hire, all that kind of stuff, And a lot of what you've mentioned, like hiring the right people, is true. And the only way you find out who those right people are is you find out what other people are doing. There's like a company, like for instance, let's say there's a company that's ABC Liquors. I don't know, and ABC Liquors, their whole thing is that they sell really good malted beer, but they've decided to go into event registration suddenly. That's not someone I want to go with right away. No. Even if they lowball my lowest offer, because that's not smart. I want to go with somebody proven, has a few years under their belt, a convention center staff that isn't like in a city that's dying. I don't want to pick Detroit, or its equivalent, or other problems like, Now, a music with a gaming, and I thought in the back of the head, this would really do well in Europe. This is the type of thing a European person would do.
Okay.
Yeah, because they do a lot of their tech conferences have raves in them, and it's a huge experience. But
let's not go to England for a while.
Yes,
but yes,
we would. Yeah,
we would Reykjavik.
Okay. Oh, there you go. That's a hub, actually.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm there.
Yeah, I'm there, especially off season. No one will want to leave their hotel room, except for the superheated baths or whatever. But we mentioned staff, which was another thing that, capital, staff, pretty much everything that I've thrown at you, Brandon, you've had an answer for, a pretty good solution. If you were trying to sell me a business plan, I would ask you, let me see your draft and then let me think about it for a while before I invest. And we could probably get some people that are serious investors.
Oh my God. Is there going to be another call?
I think there's got to be a separate conversation where I ask Grig a very personal question of, would you actually want to run this full-time for your job? Because if there's any hesitation, I'm out. I can't wait.
You're like me, because there's a lot of people I think you should run a WorldCon. Really? Would you work with me? Oh, no. Okay, well, there you go. A lot of people said, you should run a convention. You'll be so successful at it. You should start a convention. I'm like, I've run enough of these to know how hard it is. Because poor Ben Penrod, he's running 24/7, constantly promoting his stuff, going to other conventions, and he's a huge wrestling fan. Yeah. Big pro wrestling type of guy, so he's got the side hobby on top of that, and he lives like a block away from Disney World, and so he's got all these things, and he's a runner, and he's got all this stuff. Well, I don't know how he does it. If I were to do that, I'd be dead. And to be honest, I don't think I could run something like this without having enough to know that I'll take 3 years off of my IT job, which I will say makes 6 figures a year for me. So that is an awful lot for me to give up. Stability, my family, all that.
Yeah.
And when you're running a convention, this is one of the reasons I retired from Katsu, you are running it 24/7. You're lying in bed thinking oh, fuck, did I do this thing? Did I do that? Because there's no passing the buck. Because it's if you have a business partner, say you two are my business partners, and I fuck something up, I'm fucking your shit up. Yep. And I got to live with that. Yep. And that may keep me awake longer than anything else.
That's why there are 3 of us.
Well, more importantly, Grig, that response is all the more reason why I would rather start a business with you than someone else, because I need motivation, capability, background, and guilt. Because that last one's a motherfucker that I cannot teach anyone. Cannot teach anyone to want to do the right thing for me. That's something that I have to basically spend years doing favors or having you see me do things for other people and be like, that dude's kind of a mensch, and I'd feel like a real fucking shithole not doing the right thing for that guy. And I need that
down is my number one motivation. I don't want to let anyone down. And but sometimes, and this has happened to a lot of people that run things, is that there's this anxiety panic cycle, and you guys, know I'm at least speaking to one artist here who understands this panic cycle, right? Suppose you have a thing that's due next month, and you're like, all right, it'll take me 2 days to actually do this. I'm going to set aside this time. But day one that you set aside that time, you wake up and, oh my God, your stomach hurts. You don't know what the hell happened to you. You got the flu. You can't believe it.
It's a stress panic. It's a stress attack. That's what
it's not even stress. Let's say it's really the flu. Your daughter got it from daycare, and Brandon's pointing to you saying, "I told you not to have kids."
Just keeps coming back to the same fucking answer. That's all I'm saying. We're solving toilet problems. I'm keeping Jamie healthy
because he seems to drop it in every channel about having kids. He's like, "Don't have kids." He's secretly part of the no parenting agenda.
Know what you're doing. That's all I'm saying. I'll gladly I'll hang out. I'll
born in the 1800s. Ate wheat bread is dead. I'm just saying. Yeah. but you get sick, and then you're behind on other stuff, so you have to do that. And all of a sudden that deadline is 2 days away, and you're like, shit. And then you're like, I can extend it. This is my friend Fred, and Fred is understanding, and he doesn't have a deadline. So it's Fred, can I do this next week? And I go, blah, blah, blah. And then you get into this weird anxiety cycle where you can't do anything because you're too afraid. It's hard to explain to people that has.
Yeah, that's happened to me a couple of times.
And you end up not talking to the person. You see their phone number, and you change a ringer to a silent tone so you don't have to hear it, or anything. You're like, and you're so ashamed. But then you don't want to talk to them the next time because your shame is like this tidal wave that keeps building logarithmically. So it's like, and it becomes this thing. And I've seen a lot of staff members do it.
Yeah.
Like the people that were running a lot of the money in Katsucon before I took over had gotten to that point. They said they knew what they were doing, and they were throwing everything in a box, putting a bowl over their head, and ducking and hiding behind a piece of furniture, figuratively speaking, obviously. But it was like they had gotten to the point where they'd have to admit that they totally dropped the ball, but couldn't. Because that, I don't know why. They just couldn't say, I dropped the ball. I haven't done anything. I haven't even filed your taxes for 3 years.
That's why we hire people to take care of some of the like stuff we know we can't handle. Like, right, but
someone has to manage that. And if you have somebody in your group who's like that, who is burnt out, and that, like, I wouldn't be able to do a convention like this for at least a few years. Only because I've got, like, my health was bad. Yeah. Like, my sugars were in the 300, 400 range, high blood pressure. I have diabetes. Now I have genetic diabetes, so I would have gotten it in my 50s anyway. But, I'm now taking care. So now I'm taking care of my health, and now I'm getting a point, and then suddenly I started dating. I married somebody who I love very much, and I love Candy very much. And so I don't want to fuck shit up in my marriage, because in the end, the person that's going to be patting my hand at the hospital bed will be her, not anybody from, like, Brandon Grig.
Well,
please. You just don't want to test my level of commitment, because I'm telling you right now, I'm in for the long haul. Like,
I'm testing my level of commitment.
I was going to say, I'll dance with the girl who brung me. Like, believe that.
Well, here's the thing about this business model, and we are treating it like a business model. If it is successful for like 2 or 3 or 4 years, it's something that we can sell to another motherfucker and then cash the fuck out.
And that's venture capitalism right there.
We take a couple of points off the back end, but we get the fuck out.
On that,
we get the fuck out. If it doesn't work, like within like the first 2 years, we know it doesn't work. But if it does, we find someone to buy it and we cash out, because we're in it for, sure, we're making a great event, but we're in it to make some fucking money.
Oh, it's true. And some people have, like, we might fill a niche category where we're making, like, like if I get something that'll replace my 6 figures a year, and now I don't have to worry about health insurance because I married an ex, or a former military sergeant. So, so I get all my healthcare stuff done by the U.S. Air Force now. But that's something that we have to think about. Are we going to have any employees, or is everything outsourced? Two different problems, because if you have everything outsourced, how do they communicate with each other? I used to work for Crown Books, and we had the people that made the sign that said Crown Books at the top of our store. The people that did the neon were different from the people that were the electrician, which were different from the people that had roof access, which were different from the electrician, from the sign timer. We had 9 people connected to that stupid glowy sign that said Crown Books. A truck backed into it. We were crow-ooks for a year because we couldn't.
Crow-ooks.
Because you guys need a proper project manager.
Exactly. And like, Crown Books was all run by all different departments. Like, nothing. Bobby Haft owned nothing. And he just had people did our warehouse. We had other people do our distribution. Other people running the stores were done by different managers. That was a different department. HR was a different. Payroll was an outsourced department. All of them hired out, but none of them spoke to each other. So if you have an HR issue that requires payroll, they got to talk to each other. The payroll department that we outsourced didn't have anyone that spoke English. It was just very, very awkward. And so they had to, like, try and communicate, and things wouldn't happen. And it would, like, you could fire an employee and they would still get paid for months before someone cut off their paycheck. And I know this because I quit and I got paid for a month. I even got my store bonus.
Free money.
Because, I know, it was free money.
That's like, a lens, man. That's a lens.
There you go. Oh, back then, oh my God, I think I was Crown Books manager. I was making $12,500 a year.
That's not a lens.
That's what a Crown Books manager made in 1980.
Like part of a lens.
That's not even, and that's net. That's gross. That's not even net.
I think what we've proven here is that we have the ability to solve any problem, and I think we should just really focus on the important thing here is we should just start a project management company, because that really seems like the thing that we really are good
There's
at.
the big racket, PMT certification, if you've ever heard of that.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, and like some PMPs can like contract like in 6 figures easily. And they go,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a project manager, and I have met so many bad project managers. Like it's like a 1 to 1,000 ratio. Like I know 3 really good project managers in my life that I personally work with that I recommend for anything. And then the rest of them are all shit. I'm sorry. They are disorganized. They don't understand the industry. They're in it for the job. They clock in 9 to 5. And they don't like so, and then they have meetings, and they have constant meetings. And I have this whole theory I won't divulge into, but the summary is there are people that go to work to actually do the job, and there are people that go to work to socialize. There are people that get feel-good stuff from rewards and accomplishments and being noticed, and people that feel good actually completing the job. And unfortunately, in the IT industry, there's so many nerds who are like, I want to do this right. And so many project managers are like, LOL, 10% packet loss is good enough for the government. I got my paycheck, and it's so frustrating. And I don't know what it's like in warehouse management, but I can imagine that you have some workers on the floor who really want to do a good job, and then you probably get some forklifts people who were told by their mom, get a job, you loser. And you have forklift certification for $150.
Yeah.
I really have no idea how much it costs.
No, I mean, give or take about that. It's the trade-off of who wants to work here later on, who wants to be who doesn't want to be a forklift driver in a year, and that's the big difference. And then the other thing of
the guy who stabs stuff in the pallets going, not my shit.
When I worked for Penguin Random House, the book publisher, the important thing was finding people who were readers, because people who were readers gave a fuck about books. As silly as it sounded, they didn't care what the topic was. This object was holy to them, and they would take the care to not topple an entire pallet. They would take the care to do a quality check on something. Like those.
There's a quote from Martin Luther King about like, if you're a janitor, be the best janitor. If you do X, be the best X that you can be. And I've taken that with me for every job that I've done, and it's done nothing but sometimes I was used, but I learned something in the job, and then I got another job based on what I learned at the job that abused me. So it all pays out. Yeah.
But all right, Jamie Noguchi?
I think we've come up with an idea that we should make money off of.
Years later, this will end up in our archives. You remember when YouTube was a thing before it got bought out by Random House?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I say that being in the book industry, Random House just kept buying up shit left and right in the 80s.
Because they had all that liquid cash. They weren't actually paying their employees.
All right. Grig, where can people find you?
They can find me. Just look up Grig, Griglarson. Anywhere on the internet, you will find my Amazon site with my novels. I have Space Bitch and Trolley current publication. Some of my Punk Walrus stories are still floating around used bookstores. You'll find me at lots of conventions. I'm on Facebook as Grig Larson, but I only friend people I know. But on Twitter, I'm Punk Walrus. If you look up Punk Walrus, yes, as in a rock star, that's a walrus. You find my Twitter. You find a lot of stuff that I've been in. You can find This Kaiju Life at kaiju.libsyn.org, I think it is, or .com. Just look up This Kaiju Life, Kaiju, and that's my current project with Novellus Reed.
Nice.
Yeah.
Brandon, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at That Guy Chalmers. I have a Twitter account. I don't respond to it. Facebook, if I don't know you, I'm not going to friend request you or accept the friend request. Don't play around with that silliness. More importantly, you can find me at superartfight.com. You can find us at the Black Cat in Washington, D.C. on March 8th. That is Friday. I believe it is doors at 8, show at 9. We have not announced the card yet, but I can promise you, you will want to show up. And we're not even going to provide a chair because you're not even going to want the fucking edge. Get out of your seat the entire time.
You underestimate my sciatica, sir.
Special chairs will not be provided. Show up early and get a stool at the bar.
I'm old and tired.
Our show is not 908 compliant.
No.
Yes, sir. Blame the black cat. It's got nothing to do with us.
Yeah, that's right. 88, go home. Oh, no, I can't believe I said
But yeah,
that.
I can tell you right now for a fact, there will be me, there will be Marty Day, there will be Ross Nover, there will be other artists. That's right.
And seriously, it's a really good show. You really, really, really should go see it. I tell everybody I know.
Yeah, and if you saw us at MagFest, ironically enough, the topic of conversation, you should be prepared for what we're about to do at Black Cat, because you may see something that you've really enjoyed, and it may or may not be resulting in a potential one contendership for a certain thing. So just throwing it out.
That is the worst vague booking ever.
I mean, I can, you know what? Fuck it. For anyone who is a Super Art Fight fan who actually listens to this podcast, we are going to be doing a 5-person gauntlet match. We will be deciding the number of which person goes at the show. Our artists only know who else is on the show. So that is what's happening right now. The winner of this will hold the coveted golden marker to take on Shoujo Agogo at a future show. They can call her out whenever they please. They can throw her down. And I'm going to start riding around with the rig in my car. And I'm just going to be on, like, it'll be old school, like cell phone calls. Will be like, yo, B, I'm at a Barnes & Noble parking lot. Go set the rig up. I know Jesse's inside getting a latte. And I'll just have the rig out there. And, like, the lady in the car walking out is going to be really confused when I show the decimal reader in her face. But she's going to decide who the champ is. So you're going to want to be there to find out who gets to murk Shoujo Agogo in a Barnes & Noble parking lot.
I like to picture Jesse Pascal going, they mentioned me on the telly.
I don't know why she suddenly decided she was a member of Monty Python.
She'll know what that means.
Applaud for my boy General Storm Sketch, my partner in crime, my tag partner. He'll be there representing Storm Master.
I wasn't ready to start announcing people, but yeah, he may be one of the people there. But yeah, superartfight.com for all the tickets and details. We just released the show poster designed by our own Baron von Sexiful, complete with also the digital art by our own Stevie Speed, Steve Boylan. Also, if you have been checking us out on any sort of social media or anything else like that, saw the new logo, saw any of the things that we're doing, Steve put all of that together. He did all of the legwork for it, took care of all of it, uploaded all of it, handled all of it.
He created a font for us.
Yeah, man creates a goddamn font. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing is what it is.
Yeah,
it's
that's
fucking
true
gorgeous.
Love right there.
If you're letting, like me, you don't know how much work that is. Ross sat me down and like held up a ruler and smacked me a couple of times and explained to me how much work that is.
It is hours and hours of work.
Oh,
it's the
at
kerning
least.
alone.
Yes. So in turn, at the very least, buy a ticket, come hang out, come see us at the Black Cat as we come back home to where we belong. High five a certain speedy artist that may or may not be at the show. High five a one General Storm sketch that may or may not be at the show. Damn sure high five me. Tell Ross that he doesn't suck anymore because he doesn't like hearing that. Tell Marty that he's absolutely the worst co-host on the planet.
Because he
and
is.
then go cheer for a winner, because that's what we do here at Super Art Fight. We support each other.
Yeah, you all suck. All this internal fighting.
All these people suck.
Yes. Great. This is the primest example of how I love. I break you down to build you back up. I am the Alfred Pennyworth
I
of
was in a
art.
comedy group. I know how it is.
Yeah.
That's why we should do this thing and make a whole bunch of fucking money.
I think you are really underestimating how much capital this is going to need to start.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
The number that is in my head is terrifying,
Yeah.
and I guarantee you when I say that number out loud, Grig's going to laugh and probably triple it. So
I'd have to see your business plan and then like do research and development.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That right there. That definitely already doubled my number.
2 years
Started
down
that
the
music
road.
store.
2 years
Started
down
the
the
music
road.
store and there we go.
2 years down the
Jamie
road.
Gucci, obviously, they found you at your YouTube channel, but where else can they find you on the interwebs?
Put my name in a web search. You'll find my Wikipedia page.
Tell them how to spell your last name because I keep spelling it with an O, Noguchi, instead of Noguchi.
It's Noguchi, Noguchi. So
See, I still spelled it wrong.
Yes.
it's like the sculptor, Isamu Noguchi. He's like the famous one.
Okay.
Now both of our viewers are educated.
Yeah, I'm gonna claim white as fuck over here and say that I'm sorry I'm an uneducated schlub. I know 2 different monster truck drivers, but I don't know the sculptor that you share a name with.
But that's one thing I don't know. Those monster truck drivers. That's one you have over me.
Yeah.
At least all my bushes are alive in my front yard. That's all I'm saying.
Nice. But yeah, you can find my shit wherever. I'm findable.
Yeah.
You're here.
As a personal ask, edit the Super Art Fight Wikipedia because there's some sort of weird Wikipedia troll that keeps like knocking down all of our stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A friend of mine tried to edit the Wikipedia and was kindly shut down in the most brutal way possible.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Damn.
So feel free to edit the Wikipedia, and if you need to use this as a site for anything, I am both a reverend and a doctor, both honorary. Let's see. Marty has a wooden leg. Ross had never actually graduated high school, just fast tracked the whole thing. And Jamie Noguchi may or may not be powered by a nuclear battery. I'm not clear how he manages to get all these things done.
Can you do that whining, like starting up thing, like in Ghostbusters? Because that's all I would ask from you.
Yeah, but he actually has to like unzip his fly. It's a little like NS for W. Anyway, so yeah, go do that thing, and thanks for hanging out. And Greg, I miss you.
Thank you.
I miss you too. We got to go out and do stuff like all that food stuff you mentioned. I want to be part of that. Okay. I just want to eat my way through whatever, like all of that.
Yep, medications be damned.
We won't take you to Honey Pig because we like you.
Okay.
But,
well, you know, it's okay. It's been okay for me, but
right.
But
we're going on a burger tour, Jamie.
Burger
BGT,
tour.
Electric Boogaloo.
Shake Shack open near me.
Oh,
okay. Let's make terrible decisions because that's the only thing you can do at Shake Shack.
I'm going to bring candy to these things, and she's like, okay.
Yeah. It's like Denny's with more diabetes. It's great.
Oh yeah,
so good. Shake fucking Shack.
All right, Jamie Noguchi, end the thing.
All right, I'm pushing the button.
Okay.
No, I'm really pushing the button.
Okay, no, do it this time.
No, I haven't pushed
Can
it
I
yet.
fart now?
No, okay, I'm pushing the button.
I like that you're a dad and still have the finger in the frame.
Pushing the button.